All right, so this is the final. I went through 3 different iterations of the tone stack configuration with the various values and things, and then tweaked the bejesus out of the last one until I got it to this stage, this is the final stage. Everything is temporaried in, as you can clearly see. This I had to hang in a weird way and connect it over to here, and this leads to here, but I would have liked to have put it on the board. This board is completely full, so I will solidify this much more better once we're already done here. But I think there is an incredible improvement in tone and useful, what do I want to say? Useful range of controls that actually do what they say on them. Bass controls the bass, treble controls the treble, you know, those kind of things. I'm kind of weird like that. But anyway, I'm about to do a sound demonstration, and you will clearly hear the difference between A and B. A being the original version of this, and then I will do a back-to-back comparison with this version, the final version, by the way. So once I clean all that up and do it right, but I'm not tweaking the circuit anymore. I'm completely done with it. Done. This is the reverb bag, the reverb tank out of the bottom of that Gibson amp. And I wiped it down, and then I went over here and opened this up. And I have no idea. So I'm dealing with this tomorrow. Alright, so this is the reverb tank. And really the only problem with that was these connectors were really corroded really badly. And I took a wire brush and spiffed them up a little bit. And that includes these connectors here. Trying to get inside there. That's very difficult, but I'm still working on it. But it's a Briggs, old school Briggs, or Gibbs, I'm sorry, Gibbs reverb tank, and transducers over here on one side, transducers on the other. So it comes in from the transformer, acts like a speaker, gets picked up like a microphone, and sent back out again, back into the amp. Alright, so it is finished. It is like finished. The problem with the reverb tank, I dunked the reverb driver, the transformer, in wax. So and I did it a couple of times, and it's sealed up pretty good and solid now. But I'm still very careful with the terminals. And I put this reverb tank back in, and at first it was buzzing like freaking crazy. So I took it out, and here the problem was just these terminals are really corroded, really bad. So, but now we have glorious, beautiful sounding reverb and tremolo, and this amp sounds like this. Alright, so this thing is pretty much done. I'm totally and truly wrapping it up. I have made several tweaks to the circuit, probably 4 times, made videos, and then finally I chanced upon something that made it totally alive, and I will get to that in a moment. But before I do, just as a weird experiment, I decided I'm going to try to add in this capacitor that feeds the reverb, that 1 meg that feeds the reverb control, which is the feed into the reverb tank. So this is now before the tone control, as it was on the original Gibson circuit. And Lordy Lord, help me check this out. All right, that's the reverb control. I have it on 3. The loudness, the gain, is on 7. Again, it's on 3. It's just for reference. This is with it off. Here it is on 5. Here it is on 7, same as the loudness. All the way up. All the way up. Alright, so as we know, a feature of this Gibson amp is that this is fed independently of the gain. So I'm going to turn the gain all the way down, and I'm going to turn the reverb up to, well, all the way. This is all the way up. Three. Anyway, I'm going to be putting that back to the where I had it. Because that is quite a bit much. Plus, because it's raw signal, it's before the tone stack, so it's adding a lot of mids and a lot of you know frequencies that I'm getting rid of. So the more you turn it up, that's why it's driving so hard. Is that it's actually pushing those mids pretty hard. So yeah, that's going to go back to the way it was. And then I'm ready to do a sound demonstration, but, well. All right, so I am seriously about to button this up and put it back in the cabinet and be done with it. But before I did, I wanted to go over what all did I do in here. So let's start over here. As you know, it had the old Mojo Tone power transformer that somebody had put in here, so I made this plate and bolted the new one to the plate. Got a new 3-wire prong or 3-wire power cord. Got the ground securely to the chassis. Set over here to the fuse. Out of the fuse to the switch. Let's see. Out of the switch into the transformer. Out of the transformer over here to here, where it meets up with the return, the neutral. And I also made sure this time to get the light involved, because the last time I wired it up I forgot to put the light in there, so that's why everything got moved over to here. So the light is also switching off and on. The pilot light here is switching off and on as it should. That's the old death cap that is sitting here dead. Built up this filter cap board here, which I'm very happy with, and I got my 4 capacitors. I changed the cathode or resistor, bumped it up to 200. In reality, that could go to 210, but 200 is fine. Got this bypass cap to go straight here where it needs to go. And I've lowered the voltage by using a pair of 100 ohm resistors on the negative and the positive side of the DC, which will lowered it to, I got 331, 12.6 on the cathode, which gives me a plate dissipation of 10.7 watts, I believe. A little too close to 11. I was shooting for under 10, but you know what? This thing was cooking before, so it's a whole lot better. I'm not going to complain. Neatened up a god-awful lot of wiring over here. Put in the new bridge rectifier. Got my choke tied in and out of here. Replaced that capacitor from a 2 to a 15, 2 to 15, added this one to 15, got rid of the RC filter that was right at the beginning, cutting off 75 hertz from your guitar tone. We got the correct filament wires wired into the filaments using the original wiring, daisy chain to all the sockets to power the tubes, and I have two 100 ohm resistors here that are within 1 ohm of each other going to ground for a virtual center tap, so it knows where ground is. This is an AC signal, so it needs to know where ground is. So 100 ohms to ground on either leg, just like that's balanced, just like this is balanced. It's the same concept. Let's see, I redid a lot of wiring crisscross ugliness. Sorry, I redid a lot of wiring crisscross ugliness over here, neatened all this up, and over here made it all flat like Lupe at Fender would have done. And of course, I changed out all this tone stack stuff right down here. Now, let's see if we can get a good picture of that. I replaced this tremolo pot with a 250K linear because it was an audio taper. So at the halfway point, it still had 50K of resistance to here before it started working. Now 50K is down around 1 or 2 with the linear taper. So I put the right taper in there and that fixed that. This is my tone network right here. You know, the bass is split between these two. This is my dropping resistor for the mids. And then I've got a Pico going into here that has actually come off and comes from, come on, right there. So that feeds the treble over here. This balances between the lows and the mids, and then that's your output to the volume over there. This is the 1 meg mid resistor going to that feeds the reverb pot. And wow, that's everything. That's everything. And the final trick to getting it to sound freaking awesome and not just great was this little guy right here. There's a 1 meg or a 100K resistor between the output of the reverb and the gain pot so that it doesn't get backfeed into the gain pot. So there's a 100 meg reverb, or I'm sorry, 100K reverb right there. And so I just put a 430 picofarad cap across there, and that brought everything up. The crossover here is about 3.3K, which is right in that drivey range. And you know, it's bright, it drives it, and it enabled me to get a little bit more scoop out of the mid. So I went in here and I changed the last final bit of it was I changed that mid cap dropping resistor down to a 5.5, ladies and gentlemen. I'm sorry, 5.6. There's a 5.6K in there now, down from a 6.8, and for a while there I had an 8.2 in it. But no, I want the deep tubby tone, and man, with this brightening it up and this scooping it out, I've got a narrow V now on it, and it just sounds great. It sounds like a black face with the mids turned up just a tiny bit and everything else flat. That's what it sounds like. Oh my God. So yeah. And some might say, well, my God, you butchered a vintage amp. Well, it's a vintage amp that doesn't have a whole lot of market value because it sounds like shit. So, you know, and it's been butchered, and look, I did this, you know, it was all new and everything, and somebody had to put a plate in here because they put a big ass power thing. This thing has taken some abuse in its day, and as far as I'm concerned, I've opened it up and I've given it the life it should have had, and it's a life that will be well loved in the future by whoever picks up this amp. They're going to say, my God, this is the best sounding Gibson I ever heard. I'll buy another one, and then they'll be disappointed when they get like another one, because it'll sound like this one did. So I have no regrets, and there you go. Alright, so one other thing I want to do before I get to the sound demonstration is actually show you what I ended up going for and what is the EQ curve that's actually in this amplifier. It's the black one, which is this middle one right here. That's my scoop. The lower one here is the Fender TMB, but with this set to the middle position. So with everything in the middle, it's that red wire, okay? The T and B is this green one here. So again, it's 10K turned all the way up, and so it's that green one, okay? Now remember, I had it flat, fairly flat before, but you look at it now, look at that scoop. In reality, this, because I have more brightness, it's probably up in this area is where my brightness actually is. This is 3K right about here where my pencil is. So, you know, I get a lot more brightness up here than what this looks like. But the curve is the same. And anyway, that's where I'm at. So if I go over here to the bass, I can go up or down. And if I go to the, you see that the treble control also acts as kind of as a tilt. It brings the bass down a little bit, as well as this side up. But look where the scoop ends up being, is right about, what is that? Scoop's at 310 hertz. So I don't really run it that high. Usually I like it both right around 6, to be honest. So if they're both right here, that's what this guitar amp mostly sounds like. That seems to be its sweet spot right there. So, important things to know. And now, the sound demonstration you've all been waiting for.